All right, so we are going to proceed with the top of our dough. We are going to create a lattice top, which is woven strips of the pie dough. So this pie dough, again, was rested and chilled, which makes it a little bit easier to work with. Any of your scrap dough, try not to play around with it. Don't treat it like Play-Doh. When you have extra dough left over or scrap dough, just sort of fold it over. Don't press it into a big ball again. That sort of works the gluten and the dough becomes a little bit more tough. Keep it wrapped up and you can put it in the refrigerator or store your extra into the freezer. So I have cut some strips out already. They need to accommodate both directions. So you will be placing strips vertically and horizontally. So you will need enough to cover the whole thing. So you might need maybe about 6 or 7 1-inch strips going across, and then the same for going vertically. So use a ruler to do this. I've already measured it out. So the beauty of this little mat is that it has built-in rulers, both in centimeters as well as in inches. So I am going to first score so I could make my cuts a little bit faster if I know where to cut ahead of time. Use the ruler as a guide and make sure it's secure onto the dough so there's no movement of the ruler. Otherwise you're going to have varying widths and shapes sometimes. A pizza wheel works really well with this. You could also use your bench scraper and just press into it without dragging the edge through the dough. Of course, you would not use a knife on this mat because it would cut right through it. But you could use a knife, but again, press into it. So if I was using a knife, for example, I would press, not drag into the dough, because then you kind of seal your layers and you want the dough to be nice and, or remain nice and flaky. So now I'm ready to assemble my strips, and I'm not going to assemble them on this pie shell here. I'm going to first assemble them on a cake board. You could also use a paper plate. I've covered it with plastic wrap, so if I want to, I could use this cake board again. So now I will place my strips down. I'd like to start off in the center so that they're evenly distributed. I'll hold off on that one. Let's see. And obviously you're going to lose a little bit. Okay, and I will cut that little strip. I'm going to put these over here so you can see. So you're just going to do a little weaving. It's very, very simple. So one up and one over, or one under. So one over, one under, one over, one under, one over, one under, and that's it. And we keep doing that same technique. So doing it ahead of time makes it so that you don't have a big mess later. So I'm doing a blueberry pie, and blueberries tend to be pretty messy. And so this way the outside of your pie will look very attractive. Nothing wrong with it bubbling over, but it just makes it a little bit easy because I could also chill this dough and it will slide right off of this, or I could even flip it over onto my filled pie shell. You could do these strips thicker if you wanted to. I like wide bands. I'm not doing it in this case, but they look pretty. This also looks nice on little mini pies. A lot of work, but you get paid for it, yes. So the more work you put into it, make sure that you're charging appropriately. And one more, and that's going to go under, up and over, up and over. Very simple, yes. And that's it, all right? Store this in the refrigerator. You can even put it in the freezer for a few minutes. And when your pie filling is ready and it's inside of your dough, you can just slide this right on top. It makes for a very attractive finish.